Welcome, Laura.
Thanks.
Hello.
Glad to be here.
Yay! This is so fun. So I know we've talked a little bit offline, but I want to break down what the inner circle is. So do you want to share like what your thoughts on just what it is and why that's so valuable? I can share some of my thoughts too, but I feel like so many people have no idea how big this is and how powerful it is, and it just needs to exist and people must know.
Yeah, I think for me, the thought of the inner circle is like we get this opportunity to have coaching, real life coaching with, um, coaches who are, let me see if I can articulate this well, who are spirit driven,
Yeah.
but at a really, dare I say, affordable rate,
Yeah.
like incredibly affordable, which is hard
Yeah.
to find in the marketplace right now. Not just the affordable part, but the spirit driven part, right? Like there's just not a lot of that out there. And
Yeah.
um, what's really fun about it is that you get, because there are different coaches that have all been trained on the same format, that you get similar coaching but different perspectives from different people, and you have the opportunity to use different coaches at different times based on your need during that week or that month or that season of life, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And then the added bonus of our monthly trainings, like
I know.
what the heck?
What is going on in there? Yeah, so it's really cool. So when you join the inner circle inside Courage Co, this is basically like if you've ever wanted to, if you've been, let's say, in a position where you want to invest in your insides. You know what I mean? For so long, we've got along where we thought that it was okay to not do that. But with what is happening in the world, with what we process every single day, let alone anything else that happens in terms of a challenge or adversity, we're just not equipped to handle that. And we need help. Like we can't actually walk through these things alone. So then when you get the courage to finally say, I need help,
Yeah.
that is a scary seat to be sitting in. And then what are you left to? Google to try to find, you know what I
Hey,
mean? To like try to find somebody to work with if you don't have referrals. And then maybe you go into mental health, but and you hire a therapist, you might look for a Christian counselor. But if you get to the position where you're ready to take some agency, right? And you're ready to start setting some goals and courageously showing up in your life in a different way and being held accountable to that, how do you find coaches? Right?
yeah.
Do you find an influencer on social media? Like, what do you do? So, like, there's nothing that's really like Christian coaches, or if there are, unfortunately, the capacity of that has not been something to write home about. It hasn't been very powerful and it hasn't been lasting. So, you really do need really a way to look for coaches that are highly skilled, highly trained, and that can walk with you through any season. Right.
Yeah.
So these are our spirit driven success coaches. And I think it's so powerful. Not only could they fall into a Christian life coach category where they are certified, they have worked and coached for years, they've gone through many programs, they're continuing to evolve, but they also flow in the prophetic, right? Which is different. They're not just giving you Bible verses, they're helping you walk out the Great Commission in your life and be truly a disciple while accomplishing your goals. They know how to pray, they know how to intercede and stand in the gap for you. Like you're getting something very different when you're meeting with these coaches, and you get 4 sessions with them every single month, and you get new training from each of them every month, plus replays from past months. So it's actually insane that you can find not just one, but several coaches. You can rotate with them every month. And if you could just entertain why that's so powerful, I think about when you're a working professional and you just have this outside support. I think about when you're going through a crisis and you have this support. I think about when you just want to level up personally, just for you as a human, what it's like to have somebody that's challenging your perspectives or helping you believe bigger, helping you see your blind spots and overcome different challenges that are in the way or limiting beliefs that have been holding you back for years, right? Like this is really a match to me for anybody. Who do you think it's ideal for?
I mean, it might be easier to say who it wouldn't be
Oh,
ideal
that's a good
for,
thought.
honestly. And I can't think of that person, honestly. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
anybody could benefit from this, right?
Yeah. I think it just makes a lot of, I mean, you see people that are interviewed that are, people are in awe of some of the outcomes that they're achieving in their life or their capacity or how they're able to move through this season with this level of the kingdom, righteousness, peace, joy. Like, how do you do that? Like, you're walking through this, but you're doing it like this. Like, how is that even possible? And often they say coaching. Of course, they'll
Yeah.
say God, but they'll say coaching. Like they are working with somebody. I call it an advisory board. And that's the cool thing. You have your own advisory board. If you've never had that level of support, mentorship, somebody invested in your vision, you've got it right here. You've got a whole team of them that are invested in
Right.
your development, which I think is pretty powerful. So I agree with that. That's not unideal really for anyone. I mean, we could say for somebody that's not invested in their growth, that's who it would not be a match for.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be a waste of time and money if you weren't invested in that. I mean, honestly, let's be real. Like you got to come to the table ready to make a change. You got to come, even if you don't have the belief behind you that
Yeah.
you can accomplish that change. Like that's what we're here for, is to help instill that belief in you and help you grow to that point where we are going to help you grow, because we're going to help you see that you have it within you the
Yeah.
whole time.
Yeah. I'm thinking about too, and you might be able to relate to this even now, but there was a time where I was investing in learning and growing, right? But you weren't in the season of seeing the fruit of that yet. You were just investing in your growth. But then I was working multiple positions full time, and these are high risk. Everything's urgent. These are really interesting people that are not easily pleased. In fact, it's like they're never pleased. And so you're in constant stress mode, right? And then you've got no time for you on your calendar. But the thing that I kept doing was investing in coaching and having like at least whether it was 30 minutes, you get 60 in here, but whether it was 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or sometimes an hour, I had these pockets in my life so that I could be like, and I could sit and also know that I'm not insane. Like what you're dealing with is kind of insane, but you're not insane. Actually, your capacity is growing. Oh, that's a great shift. Like I'm now seeing myself as somebody that's growing. Or actually, you're really learning how to overcome conflicts well.
Yeah.
Oh, that's powerful to know. Or like, you're running into like somebody can celebrate you. Somebody can give you a different perspective. Somebody can give you a different way to go into that meeting, a different way to assertively communicate, a different way to lighten your load, a different way to strategize something that absolutely needs a strategy in your life. And you can get that in a session. And then how you win in that season is totally different. So do you want to speak to how this could even be a fit for any season?
Yeah, well, I think going back to something you said where you're and I don't remember exactly how you said it, but it's like you're giving out a lot, right? Like when you're in these busy seasons. And I think you and I talked about this off air last week maybe. Like like personally I'm in a season where I feel like I have a lot of output. Like there's a lot of energy going out. There's a lot of things that
Yeah.
um I'm doing on the regular, and there's not a lot of input. And I think coaching gives you like that energy refreshment. It gives you a time to like refresh your soul, refresh your perspective, refresh other areas of your life that you might not get. I mean, maybe that hour is the only hour of the week that you get that. Hopefully not. But if it is, then you know that that hour is going to be very focused on you, very focused on what it's going to take to give you that refreshment. And I think that's really powerful to have like in your back pocket. Like, ooh, I got this for me. That's
Yeah,
just
like
another
you
thing I
get
got.
to have that support. Because I think
Yes.
as we go through our life, I was thinking about this as you were sharing that because I just loved refresh your soul. I think that's so beautiful to think about, right? Just like rivers of living water coming upon your soul and you just feeling literally refreshed, revived, inspired, hopeful, expectant, at ease, peaceful, intentional, like backed up, fully
Yeah.
supported. Like that's a different way to live, and you have that. But I think sometimes it's challenging because we don't believe we're worthy of that support or we
Yeah.
think we're not supported. And sometimes you invest in your support so you can learn to receive support. And then, strangely enough, it changes how you value being supported because sometimes we don't receive support because we're too controlling, actually, or we don't
Heck,
open ourselves
I've
up
been
for it,
there.
right? So it's like you can humble yourself a little bit and invite that support and invest in that support. And I think I was studying the other day, it's like part of self-love is discipline.
Yeah.
Right? Part of self-love is discipline. So how you discipline yourself, how you invest in support in yourself is a reflection of how you love and support yourself and thus everything in your life. And I just think that that's so powerful. And then I had this thought too. I don't know if anyone has thought this, but like, well, what if I don't have anything to be coached on? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if
Mm.
anybody has come to you like, I don't know what I want to talk about today, but never in the history of coaching has that ever been a thing? Not one time. Like even if I've said it in a coaching session, it's a lie. Or, if somebody comes in and they don't think they have anything to coach on, there's always something. And that's the cool thing is you're not limited just to like a career goal. It might be one week, it might be there's something in your relationships that came
Mhm.
up and it needs your urgent attention, whether it's with your kids, whether it's with a spouse, whether it's with a partner, a friend. Maybe there's like a friend something or other that came up that needs your
Yeah,
attention ASAP. And you've got somebody to work that out and role play that with you immediately. Or maybe another time it is a major decision that you need to make. Coaching works in real time. So nothing is off limits to be coached on. So do you have
that's
anything
right.
to say about that?
Yeah, and I think for me, oftentimes coaching was where things I was wrestling with, like with God with too. Like there were
Yeah.
parts of the word I was wrestling with, or decisions that I just felt like I'd been praying on, but just didn't feel like there was movement there. And so for me, coaching allowed the opportunity to kind of wrestle in a safe
Mhm.
space too,
Love
which
that.
I think that's part of that advisory board, right? Like we look at our lives and we have people in our lives that we know are safe spaces that we can talk to and others that aren't, right? Like when you have
Yes.
you mentioned relationships.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I'm in a relationship with someone, I don't want to go spouting off all of my dirty laundry to my
Right.
best friend or my mom because they're going to hold it against them. But a coach can be
Yes.
that safe space for just even the simplest of
Yes.
situations. It doesn't always have to be like these grand,
Yeah.
things, but I think oftentimes it is. I think oftentimes it's the moments in life that we're like, we don't know how to get through it, and we need somebody to be there to help us process safely.
Yes. Or just even what you said there, that phrase, a safe space. Sometimes we don't even know how to create that for ourselves. And so
Yeah.
you can just dedicate this as your safe space. I call it non-negotiable you time. So when you've
Yes.
always been like delivering or people pleasing or making sure everybody else is good, like when you look at your calendar, there's no space for you. So how are you supposed to exist, let alone thrive? Like that makes no sense. So it's like, well, I got to do something about that, even if I have to schedule it in, which for me, I had to, right? And then when
Yep.
you have this non-negotiable you time, a visual of this is I used to be somebody that I call it future tripping, as you know.
Yeah.
I had like a lot of thoughts about the future, particularly it not going well, which is probably like high functioning anxiety to some degree. But I used to keep like a worry spot on my calendar. So just consider having a worry jar. Like anytime a worry would come up, instead of like letting that consume my day, I would have this dedicated time that I would worry if I was going to worry, or if I would just put my focus on that over here in this window in this time. But
Yep.
that's evolved now with coaching. So it's like instead of worries, it's like this is where I'm going to make big decisions. This is where I'm going to get my vision clear. This is where I'm going to get these goals, these action steps that I'm going to be held accountable to. Like I'm going to put some skin in the game, and this coach is going to get on my case if I don't do my homework, right? Like
Yes.
I'm going to be held accountable to progressing in my life. And that is going to make a big deal for me in moving forward, right? And evolving. And I think that's just fun to think about. Like, this is your space to do whatever is necessary to breathe, to think through something, to process something, to reflect on something, to get strategy and vision around something, to literally have somebody work with you that is highly skilled and trained to work with you to walk through whatever it is. Like, nothing literally is off limits.
Yeah.
That cannot be said usually for anybody else in your life.
That's right. That's right.
Literally. Like pastors can't do that. Sometimes friends are not able to do that. Family members can't do that. It's really hard to come by, but this person can literally dive in and they want to, which I think is also just a supernatural thing. Like, how are you that weird that you want to get you want to get invested in that level? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think also coaching brings a very non-biased opinion to what you're going through, to what you're wanting to work through in that time. So like even when you're talking about getting counsel from your friends or your pastor, like they have some kind of pre-bias that they're bringing into it because
Yeah.
they know you personally.
Yeah.
And when you're working with a coach, yes, you get to know them personally, or you get to share parts of your however
Yeah.
much you choose to share. But I think there's something about coming in with just this unbiased of like, this is you time. Like, what are we going to do with this time?
Yeah.
And as you're talking about this, I just think about, I don't know when this is going to be produced and
Yeah.
shared, but like we're right in the middle of January as we're talking about this, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how many times are we looking at New Year's goals? We're looking at what are the top ones? We're going to get our budget in check, we're going to get
Yeah.
our health in check, and whatever the third one is, right? There's like these three main
Yes.
goals that people want to go to. And what if part of that was just getting everything, I don't know, like your mind right and getting
Mhm.
your belief in yourself right? Like what would that do to change the rest of those goals too? Because I
Yeah.
think you can start a gym exercise, you can start a diet, or you can start a budget. There's all these things that you can start, but if you don't have that belief inside of you,
Yeah.
oftentimes those things are never going to stick.
Dude, it's so good. I'm thinking of the scripture too. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning. And if you actually meditate that, it's because it's not too hard to come up with an idea. Like we've got so many people that can just come up with like the best ideas, but the issue is those never get implemented. Whether that's
Yeah.
perfectionism, whether it's procrastination, whether it's insecurities, whatever, like things get in the way. So when you think about that, it's like nothing changes if nothing changes. So maybe the one reason you didn't meet your goals is because you only came up with the idea. You didn't put a strategy around it. You didn't put support around it. You didn't put any execution around it. So it's
Yeah.
easy for that to dissolve because you don't have enough training and runway behind that to actually see any improvement or feedback. And so I think that that's a big deal. I was thinking as you were sharing too, we have this in common, which I don't know is everybody. Maybe that's more common, but we have a long history of being in therapy and also being trained in coaching. So
Yeah.
I did have somebody reach out recently. She was like, "Excuse my ignorance, but are you, like capable in both? And like, what's the difference? And like, what
Yeah.
are you? Like, I don't know. I don't know how to put you in a bucket. Like, who are you? What do you do? And I don't know how it works. And so, can you describe a little bit the difference between therapy and coaching and why they're both valuable and even why you could be working both at the same time?
Yeah, because I do work both at the same time. I have a
Yeah.
therapist and I've had coaching, not currently working in coaching, but
Yeah.
because we have this great network of coaches that are my friends now, like
Yes. So you do get coaching all of the time now?
that's a perk.
Yeah.
Just saying. Anyways, I think there's a benefit to doing both, right? And so in therapy, you work a lot on past things. You work through trauma. You work through, specifically for me, it was trauma and grief, and a lot of insecurities that those things brought up for me. And coaching was about looking forward and how can I take what I'm really partnering with God with to heal in
Yeah.
therapy and use that for something that's going to be really positive and beneficial going forward.
Yeah.
And so there's been a really beautiful balance between the two of like learning who I was meant to be before all that other stuff happened, and
Yeah.
then taking that person and letting her transform into something really cool on the other side of it with a coach who's like, here's the belief I want to instill in you
Yes.
now.
Yeah. I think
So,
similar to your, having a non-biased person in your life, which is I don't know. I consider that probably one of the greatest blessings that you can have in your life is when you actually have somebody that does not see you as limited. Like they literally see you as
yes.
God sees you, literally. And they're curious and they want you to win. Like that is never, like I hadn't had anybody even close to me show up in my life that way. So when you experience it, you're like, what is this? What does one do with
Yeah.
this? You know what I mean?
I
We're
don't
trained.
understand what's happening right now.
Literally, though, like we are trained to operate like we're broken. We're trained to operate like everything needs to be fixed. We're trained to control things. We're not trained to be whole. We're not
Yeah.
trained to shine. We're not trained to be great, actually. And so when you're held accountable to those things, you're like, oh, goodness, like I have to renew my mind here because I still am operating like a victim, or I need to actually take a risk here because this feels really intimidated. I'm used to playing small and hiding, and now I got to come out and like play bigger. Like, what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, can I do that? And your coach is like, well, duh. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course you can do that, and I'm here to like cheer you on. You're like, seriously? But
Yeah.
somehow, because they're so full of belief for you, that dares you to believe bigger. And then that dares you to live bolder. And then suddenly you're getting new traction and these things that were once impossible for you. And then you start asking, what else could I do? What
Yeah.
else could become possible? What else can change? Like if I'm partnering with God and my coach, right, where two or three are gathered, the Lord is in their midst, right? What now becomes possible? Because that used to be impossible, but now I'm connected to like a supernatural force, basically, to break through into new momentum in my life. Like, what now can I do? And it's
Yeah.
insane because so much can happen in such a short period of time. Like, imagine if you just work with a coach for a year.
Hmm.
Because I think there's something to be said about that too. I think personally with therapy, that can be something where you're doing because of a certain thing that's coming up. It can
Yes.
be something that you revisit. But I think with coaching, it's something that to me is always necessary because there's always a new level that you're breaking into. It's not maintenance. You know what I mean? It's like you're
Right.
constantly stretching and growing and risking, and you need a whole lot of support, like way more than you think, in order to keep that up because you're always expanding. So I don't know what you think about that, but I don't see coaching as maintenance at all.
No, no, I don't think so either. I think it really is what you're saying. And I think you said something about being like tapped into the supernatural. And I think it's important for us to realize that we're always tapped into that when we choose to
Yes.
be. But like having someone who can help us develop what
Yeah.
that looks like too and empower, like I don't know the right way to say that, but like there's a point where it really started to shift for me when I was in coaching, and it was like, oh, like I've had all these dreams in my whole life, like I should do this or I should do that, and then it was like, wait a second, there's a dream that's in your heart for a reason, right? Like
Yeah.
God wants you to do this for there's a reason that that dream is there,
Yeah.
and so it's exciting to see how coaching can help
Yeah.
develop that and
Yeah.
empower that and give you that tools and the skills to like break free from the things that are holding us back
Yeah.
from not tapping into that source and not tapping into what's already within us.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good because none of this is happening outside of a relationship with God. So, like, even if you've come in and you don't feel like close to God, or you don't feel like you can hear God, or you're not sure if this is God and if you can trust this, therefore, like, how do you walk in obedience or faithfulness? Like, all of that gets worked out because these coaches have relationships with the Lord. They've been walking with Him for a minute. They're still involved in their growth and development, right? So
Yeah.
that makes them not just masterful, but in real time, you get to glean their wisdom and their breakthroughs too. They're constantly imparting things into you, which I think is so powerful. But even through coaching, having a relationship with God that you didn't know was possible, that is huge because then it unlocks this rich relationship with yourself where you actually honor and respect yourself. And then that translates into you loving other people well. That alone would just change your entire life, let alone the courage that's imparted to you, the breakthrough that's imparted to you that you don't have to pay the price for. I think that's the cool thing about this level of supernatural. In the world, you almost have to earn a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or you have to go get educated for this period of time to get this outcome. But the cool thing in the supernatural is whatever breakthrough is on that person's life, whatever anointing they carry, they literally impart that to you
Yeah.
just by interacting with them. Like they carry an anointing and they give that release of faith to you. They give that breakthrough, that overcoming to you. So if they've overcome an addiction, that now becomes possible for you if you're battling that. If they've overcome grief, they now get access to a journey that is life-giving somehow,
Yeah.
right? Like it's actually insane when you think about it. That's not promised in just your average coaching or in your average experience. And a lot of times too with counseling, for example, there's a lot of limitations to you can only counsel within this state, right? You can't counsel
Right.
globally, or you can only have this level of relationship with somebody where coaches can really dive into just about anything with you, which I think is powerful.
I do too. I do too. Yeah. I had a thought that's completely gone. So see the blank stare come across my face.
Well, I think a great point too is that we believe in coaching that the client is the expert. So you're not working with somebody that's holier than thou. You're not working with somebody that's going to tell you what to do. Like you are working with somebody that's trained at drawing the gold out of you, at helping you focus on God, at helping you uncover this hidden treasure that's within you and start activating that and stepping into that fully, not kind of like halvesies, like fully stepping into your greatness, right? And that's just such a rare thing to come by. You have to experience it to fully grasp that for yourself.
It's so true. It's not something, it feels almost intangible as you discuss it. And then it's like once you experience it, and then you go, oh, how can I tangibly explain it? And it's really hard to explain until you've experienced.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just think in life, like one, authenticity is hard to come by. Two, genuine servant-hearted people that are highly trained, certified, right? Actively involved in ongoing growth and development. It's not just like a season. This is a calling. This is a mission. Like we're not putting anybody else in that position. Like these are people that are called to serve at this
Right.
level. So hard to come by. But I think the other thing is we think that we're supposed to just know things, right? That we're supposed to just have these things figured out. And then we start almost like shaming or blaming ourselves because we don't have it figured out. But God qualifies the called and he equips the called. So sometimes it's like the very nature of your problem, your issue, your circumstance is the reason that you lean in to different levels of support, where when you come together with somebody else, these different things surface, right? I call them divine downloads, but it's like these ideas straight from God bubble up and you now know what to do. And that
Yeah.
can happen every week for you,
Right. Right. But we
literally.
have a responsibility with that too, right? Like we have
Huge,
to actually
huge.
intentionally step into that work.
Yep.
And that's, I think that is often the hardest part of this. Like, not to say that there won't be hard times in coaching, because I can guarantee that there will be. But that's where we just like start to discover the fruit and the gold that's within, right? And but that first step is really the hardest part to say, you know what, I do want to make a change in my life and I do want to get better. And oh,
Yeah.
such a hard step.
Well, we have that principle, right? We either grow or we die, which is the
Yeah.
idea that you're either constantly evolving or you're already regressing, which is not
Yeah.
a great thing. So if that's it, we're not on this journey of arriving anywhere. We're on this journey of becoming more like Christ and having his nature literally be recreated in us. We're on this journey of refining our character and really stepping into the light that we're called to and like literally discipling nations. We're doing that
Mhm.
individually and collectively. So there is a bigger piece of this that's happening here. This is not purposeless work in any means. It's very multifaceted. And we somehow simplify what is so nuanced, which I think is pretty powerful to think about. But as we wrap up here, are there any testimonies from working with folks that you can think of off your head that you want to share that have been pretty cool? Just one, two.
I think most recently, and we were talking about this just a little bit
Yeah.
beforehand, is that being able to come into a coaching session knowing that there's a solution to something that somebody's already dealing with. And I think that we often find a way to find the problem or to find a reason for the problem, but to know that there's always a solution to be found
Yeah.
and to be able to walk into a coaching session with someone who might not have the hope for that, but to be able to say, actually, let's pick this thing up and turn it around and look at it from another
Yeah.
angle or another perspective. And there's a solution that's waiting over here.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really, and I just had that experience this week with a client, and it was really cool to be able to help them see that there was a solution to a problem they've been really been dealing with for months.
Yes.
Um, and I think that's just one small little bit of what coaching can do.
Yeah. So good. We teach that a miracle often is just a shift in perception. And sometimes that's
Yeah.
what's keeping us in this invisible prison that we don't know that we're in because we're so invested in the problem. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Sometimes when we're in our own life, all we can see is the problem and it feels so real. And we just are now partnering with fear, with doubt, with insecurity, with anxiety, with frustration. And you can't change your problem from that level of thinking and operating. You just cannot do it. And so when you have somebody that's not committed to your problem, they're committed to solutions, they're committed to possibilities. You're like, what is happening? This like
Right.
supernatural weirdo just like invaded my life and gave me an instant solution that I couldn't figure out for however long, but way too long at this point. And it's solved, right? So
Yeah.
you've got people that believe in solutions and they sling them daily, right? And they're walking in miracles in their own life. They're committed, like they know something's possible. They don't actually agree with or partner with anything less. So that's rare. And then that rubs off on you. So you start moving in that level of belief. You start moving in that level of hope or expectancy, and your world starts adjusting because of that.
Yes.
New things become possible. So we just believe baseline, right? God is always doing a new thing, right? And we're all about perceiving it and partnering with it. And
Yeah.
sometimes the noise in your life prevents you from doing that, especially when you're just going through the motions or trying so hard to survive. We're not teaching you to survive. We will help you grow through whatever you're going through, but you're going to thrive in it. And we're
Yeah.
going to show you how to do that too, because suffering is a part of life. It is a part of life, and there will be great suffering, right? And there's going to be tests and trials of many kinds, but the Lord delivers the righteous, right, out of them all. And so we have to focus on, how do I endure? That's training. That doesn't just happen. That's a choice. Those are decisions to endure, which is walk through something well. How do I do that? Because that
Mhm.
is a choice. That's an option. So we're going to help you see your options that you can't see. And I think that that's compelling because it feels so discouraging. There's like this air of defeatism in the world and negativity, and that's dark. And so we just turn up the light. You can turn up the light even if it's an hour a week when you work with a coach.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you said something really powerful about like when you start to grasp that belief for yourself, like that creates hope within you, and that does start to trickle out into other areas of your life. And so I just think about like when we don't have that within us,
Yeah.
how are the other relationships in our life going? How's it going with our coworkers? How's it going with our spouses? How's it going with our kids? And if that shifts within us, then what does that do for those relationships? It's like this big ripple effect that doesn't affect just you.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I just think that's really powerful.
It's really powerful. And everything changes. How you think changes, the language, the way you communicate. Like I know like in our space now, like we can work through things, but we don't stay there longer. Even when we talk about things, we reframe them. So for example, I don't believe in being busy. I don't
Yeah,
believe in that. I don't talk about that, but I do believe in having a full life and being fulfilled as I live and deliberately choose life in these things, right?
yeah,
That's a different way to live, but it's super fun and adventurous, right? Because I get to do everything that's on my calendar. I don't have to.
right.
That keeps you in this place. And I think it's so funny because other people catch themselves. They're like, I am facing a challenge that I'm finding. You know what I mean? You can see them in real time changing their language. And it's so funny because you just have all these people that are, helping you be renewed truly in all
Yeah.
aspects. And it's refreshing, it's life-giving. We sling joy, we deal hope, all those things, and that can happen every week. So, for those that want to work with you specifically, how can they connect with you and what are you most passionate about?
So I'm listed on the Coach Network,
Yep.
which is awesome. And I really have two areas of focus that I work in, and a lot of that's with people, with entrepreneurs and business-minded people who
Yes.
are wanting to either start or grow in their business. Really good with systems and processes and all things organization. Which
Yes.
if you were to look at parts of my life, you'd be like, really? No, I'm just kidding.
No, you've just like truly maximized it beyond your average person for sure.
And then I've walked my own battle with grief and trauma and really hard fought joy. And
Yes.
so, if that's something that people are walking through and they want to see what joy looks like on the other side, I'm your girl.
Yeah. And how do you even put language to this? Like when you do encounter grief and trauma and then you dare to create from that, like what do you call that other
I don't
than
know that I've ever put words to it. I think it's just dare. I think it's really daring to live
Yeah.
after loss or
Yeah.
daring to live after the thing that dared you not to.
Yeah. That is it, guys. That is like a golden nugget. I knew it was in there. I could feel it, right? Like daring to live after
It
things have
really
dared
is
you not
daring to
to.
live.
So good.
Yeah. I actually had a conversation with someone about that this weekend, someone who's very close to me, and they were like, "You just don't understand the grief that I'm going through." And I said, "No, well, I do. That's not what we've decided for this conversation. So I'm not like, it wasn't my time to share that.
Yeah.
But the question I asked was, do you want this event to be the thing that defines who you are for the rest of your life? Or do you want this event to be the turning point? And do you want to live in joy? Do you want to live? Like you're still on
Yeah.
this earth for a reason and God still has a purpose for you.
Yeah.
And what are you going to choose to do with that?
Yeah.
And sometimes we're ready to hear that and sometimes we're not.
Right. That might start with an eye roll, but eventually you embrace that.
Yeah, sometimes you're met with a like, oh, did you really just say that to me? But I believe it so profoundly that there is joy in life on the other side of loss and trauma
Yeah.
that I'm gonna make you believe it.
Yeah. And that comes from a deep place, right? Of like, can I believe it? I think we all
Yeah,
start there, and like now you've dared to, and it's like now you can help other people make that leap. And it's a leap, it's definitely a
yeah,
leap. And there's so many unknowns or so many certainties, but we find certainty in God. We start finding his known will for our lives through the things that we walk through. And there's so many people that need the light, especially even in this world that we're living in, where so many things are surfacing and now they're in these realities that they never thought could happen to them because we never think that before it
right.
happens, right? Now we're in it, now what? And so we help answer a lot of that time the now what question too, which is super intimidating.
Yeah, and I
There's
think a
so
lot
many
of
that are
times,
insensitive and not trained to walk with you through that stuff.
oh, 100%. And that is really the question to ask, right? Like, have they been there? Have they walked through it? And I know that there's plenty of therapists and coaches out there that are doing good work, but they don't know what it's like to be on the floor of your bedroom crying your eyes out for
Yes.
days or to even believe that you might even deserve to live on the other side of it. So it's heavy stuff, but
Good stuff. But even
yeah,
that is not off limits, kind of like what we were saying before.
right.
It's so good. I mean, we could talk and we do like all the time about
All the
how
time.
powerful this is, but the great thing is everybody listening, right? Or even people you can think of in your life have access to this. And
Yes.
it's the proof is there, the transformation is there, the breakthroughs are there, the life is there. And so we'll share all of the details for people to connect, but I just want to honor you. I am so grateful to know you and get to do life with you, and I'm
Same.
so incredibly proud of you. And it's just so fun to see how the investments and the courage to keep showing up has led to more, right? Like when you don't despise the small beginnings, which you never have, right? You become ruler over much, and that's truly where you are right now. And it's
Yeah.
such a blessing. We don't always see it as a blessing sometimes when we feel the weight of it, but that's how God blesses us. He gives us
Yeah.
more to steward and to be faithful with, and you're doing phenomenal. It's such an honor to do life with you.